People think that money literally grow on trees abroad. They think that you can literally pick money on trees. So they think you are living an expensive life, you're buoyant, you're financially comfortable the moment you move abroad. But contrary to opinion of our brothers and sisters back home, living abroad can be really exhaustive. It can be expensive, it can be draining, it can be depressing. Yes, there's a good side to this. So today I'm going to be sharing how we manage our finances in the UK versus when we were in Nigeria. I'm going to give you some budgeting tips and how you can manage your finances as an immigrant abroad. Budgeting is one of the core skills that every human should have. Like, every person should be able to manage their finances, but many people struggle in this area. So today I just want to share some tips on how you can manage your finances. And what is budgeting? Budgeting is simply matching your income and your expenses. You look at your income, how much you earn, you look at your expenses, how much is going out, and you are able to tell where money is coming from and where money is going to. And you're able to judiciously allocate your resources in the right manner so that you are not stranded, you are not broke, you are not asking for urgent 2K. So today I just want to share tips on how you can manage your finances, whether you're in the UK, whether you're in the Western world, whether you are abroad, or whether you live in Nigeria. I'm going to share some important tips or things you need to consider when it comes to budgeting. So when it comes to budgeting, there are several factors you need to put in mind. And I'll be sharing some of the factors you need to consider when it comes to budgeting, when it comes to managing your income and your expense. Number one, which is I think is the most crucial, is the cost of living. What is the cost of living where you are? And if you are abroad, people would think that, oh, you are enjoying, you are balling, you have all the good things of life, especially people back home. They think that, oh, you're enjoying all the good amenities and all of that. But before you're about to praise us for that, also remember that there's a cost side to this. There's a cost side. People have to pay for these amenities. So there is good electricity, there is water, there is, any other thing you could think of. We have those amenities. But if we look at the cost of living now, one of the major financial expense that people have to, consider is their rent. In short, I think the rent is like the biggest financial expense that people have to consider, whether you are home or abroad. And so people have to like strategically position themselves when it comes to, paying their rent, when it comes to getting a place where they need to live, because you'd have to live somewhere. You cannot live on the streets. And unfortunately, there are people who live on the streets because they cannot afford it. And if you are back home, you think that, oh, we won't have any beggars abroad. But there are beggars abroad. There are people who are struggling to find where to live. So that you're abroad does not mean that, oh, there is one, you have, reached your financial climax where you don't need to, worry about money anymore. No, the trouble continues wherever you are. So when it comes to budgeting abroad, you have to consider your rent. Where do you want to live? And the sad part of budgeting when it comes to, the UK where I currently live is the fact that, and other developed countries, is that renting is monthly. You have to pay for your rent monthly. So you have to be sure that you are getting an accommodation that your income can cover. In short, you cannot even get an accommodation if you do not have a financial income. One of the important things they will ask you for is your financial reference. Where do you work? And you need an employment reference and a financial reference to prove that you can afford to pay for that house you want to get. And if by chance you cannot pay, you need a guarantor, someone that they can hold accountable if you fail to pay for your rent. So you see how tricky it is and how, dicey it is, especially if you live in Nigeria and you think that, oh, people abroad are just like enjoying. There are other things that they have to, put in mind. So when it comes to Nigeria, when we were living in Nigeria, renting is, yearly. You pay for your rent yearly, it's annually. So it gives you like enough time to plan. So you have a whole year to plan for your rent. So that's why when I hear people say, oh, my rent is due, I don't have the money, especially if you live in Nigeria, I'm like, you had 1 year to plan for this rent. What were you doing? Of course, things could come up along the way that could make you, financially incapacitated to pay for your rent, but you have enough time to plan. That is why budgeting is so important. Very, very important, an important skill that everyone needs to consider. So if you're abroad, renting, is very, very important that you have to pay for. And not only do you have to pay for rent, you have to pay for water, you have to pay for electricity, you have to pay for gas, you have to pay for insurance, you have to pay for council tax, You have to pay for, if you have a vehicle, road tax and vehicle insurance and so many other bills that come with it. And these has to be paid monthly. So how do you budget for that? The first thing is to write a list of all your expenses. Be able to track your expenses. Be able to track everything that you're spending your money on so that you can estimate how much you need to budget in a month. Because your rent is such a huge financial expense, you have to be strategic about how you plan for your rent and where you want to live. So if it means going to a far location because you want to save money on rent, it might be great to do that. If it means going to a place that is closer to the center so you don't have to pay for transportation, you have to consider that. So these are some of the factors that you consider when you want to budget, when you want to like be able to manage your finances. So it's not all about just getting a house. Especially if you're abroad, you need to consider other things. So if you want to rent a house or you're currently renting, these are some of the things you need to consider. What is the EPC rating of the house? What is the energy efficiency? Like, do you have modern facilities that can help you conserve energy such that you don't have to pay much? So you have EPC rating A, B, C, D, E. So you know that E is like E, I think it's up to G or E. I look at E as like the lowest anyway. So a band E would definitely cost you more than a band A. So you want to check the energy rating of the house if you're going to be spending less or spending more. So you have to check that. You have to also check the council tax. What is the band? We have A to I think E or G as well. So you want to check that you are not spending so much money on council tax, on paying for things in the environment, in the local council where you live. So these are some places where you can save money. So at least you're checking that it's not just, oh, you see a house rent of maybe let's say £1,200 for a 2-bedroom apartment or maybe 3-bedroom apartment, depending on the city you live, right? Because the city you live can also help you save money. So if you're living in an expensive city, you know that most of your money will be going towards the rent. So you have to be strategic about how you plan for the future. You have to be strategic about where you live, how both of you and your partner can pull money together. And if you are a single person, maximize, staying in a shared accommodation. I don't see anything wrong with that, right? I know you want your comfort, but what if you save money by, living in a shared apartment or living with a family and you are able to save money towards your mortgage that is, you renting to own. So it'd be better to, start saving money towards having your own place such that you know that as you are paying for the rent, it will finally become yours. So that is another trick that you can apply to it. Number 2 factor you need to consider when it comes to budgeting is your income versus your expense. In short, budgeting is income and expense anyway. So you look at, is your income equals to your expense? Is your income less than your expense? Is your income greater than your expense? And the place where you want to be is where your income is greater than your expense. If your income is below your expense, it means that you have to cut down on your expense. You don't have to make sure that you're not living above your means. You have to be sure that you're living below your means because you're going to run into debt soon because you will have to borrow to be able to accommodate those expenses. So you need to track your income. Like I said before, track your income. Like we have a spreadsheet. Like I have a spreadsheet where I track all the expenses and the income. I literally check through my bank accounts at the end of the month and I check how much came in, how much we spent, and then I'm able to get an average of how much we spend monthly so that we can also plan for every month. And we have peak periods maybe when we have to buy extra things, we can also accommodate that. So I'm able to track my expense every month, every quarter. I know how much we spend. And so we could tell that, okay, if we want to buy this, is this something that we can accommodate now? So it's important that you're able to track your income and your expense. And if your income is below your expense, what can you do to increase that income to support the lifestyle that you want to live? And this rule applies anywhere you are in the world. Do you need to learn a professional skill? Do you need to start a business? Do you need to look for a side hustle? Do you want to start content creation like me? Of course, I'm not doing it for the money anyway. But of course, money is part of the benefits. So I'm not monetized yet. I'm still on my journey to be monetized, but I love what I'm doing anyway, and if money comes with it, it's nice. So you want to check what can you do to increase your income. So budgeting is income and expense. So is either you try to increase your income or you reduce your expense. If you think that your lifestyle is comfortable where it is, you can't go below that, then you have to consider the income part. What can you do to increase your income? If you're single, maybe you should get married. Go and get married, because by the time you pull your funds together, oh my God, you'll be balling. And marry somebody that has sense, that is, passionate, that is hardworking, that can bring money to the table, things like that. But I mean, that's just by the way anyway. So you want to check how you can increase your income so that it can match your expense, or you want to reduce your expense. And those are important things you need to consider. If you're abroad, avoid African food store. Okay, let me be nice, don't avoid, but reduce your African foods. You can't be spending like a lot of money on African foods. Like, I know that aside rent, food is another thing that consumes your money. And I think this one applies in Nigeria. I think the major expense we had back home when I used to do our budgeting was food. And with the increase in the cost of living in Nigeria and food inflation, I can imagine that would like be the major expense in most Nigerians. But most Nigerians or Africans would face, depending on the country, but I can only speak for Nigeria. So you want to check what budget you have for food. Are you eating exorbitantly? Are you overly expensive? Maybe you're going for turkey instead of chicken, trying to maximize what you can buy based on your current income. Or you try to increase your income so that you can accommodate the expense. So in the UK, I'd say that, I mean, we're blessed to have a variety of food. I've started embracing the British culture and their kind of food. So we eat a lot of roast in my house, roast potatoes with fish, roast potatoes with chicken, and these are affordable. Instead of buying yam, buying indomie, buying all those African soups and everything that is taking your money, eat British food. I make what's it called, chicken curry potato sauce, and it's absolutely delicious. I make coleslaw at home. I use lentil to make akara, which is like £2, and I can use it like 2 to 3 times instead of going to buy beans in African store. These are ways you can cut your expenses, and they are very healthy meals. Like, I prioritize healthy meals for my family because I know that health is wealth, right? I cannot be working too hard and I'll die on the way just because I'm not taking care of myself. Of course, it's God that gives, life and long life, but at least there are some things that you can do to improve your health. So guys, if you're abroad, reduce your African store buying or use Asian store. I think Asian stores are quite cheap as well. So you can buy spinach instead of going to buy, water leaf. Spinach is cheap. It will give you the same result. You can do your effort with spinach. Think about how you can reduce your expense. So you reduce frivolous spending. Whatever is not necessary, you don't need to, go for it. You cannot even afford to be eating out every time. I know in Nigeria, food is slightly affordable. I think you can easily go to a restaurant and not spend that much. But you know how expensive, going to a good restaurant can be in the UK. So you don't want to be going out every time to eat out. Save that money and cook something in the house that you can use for a long period of time. In my own house, the rule is no frivolous spending except it is necessary. Like maybe our birthdays, anniversary, we just want a promotion or something really significant. If not, why are we going out to eat? We can go to a nice place and just enjoy the environment and all of that, but we cannot afford to be going out that much because of course we've not gotten to that level yet. We're still like middle income earners, so we have to like cut our coat according to our size. And this is a brilliant way to manage your finance. So in summary, look at all your income for the month and then check your expense. The goal is for your income not to be equal to your expense. No, sorry. The goal is for your income to be greater than your expense, like I said before. If your income is below, you need to work on your income or reduce your expense. If your income is exactly your expense, that is a big red flag, which will take me to the next point. So the third thing you need to consider is your savings. What is your savings? What is your savings culture? And remember I said that if your income is equal to your expense, that's a big red flag. Why? Because you have no savings. You're earning £1,000, you spend £1,000. What can you save? Nothing. So you want to be in that situation where at least you can reduce your expense so that you can have something to save for emergency. I was reading something on Instagram early this week, and Pastor Even said, emergency fund is not God forbid. Like, When you tell people to plan for emergencies or plan for unforeseen situations, they're like, God forbid, it can't happen to me, it can't happen to me. What if you lose your job? Genuinely, what if you have an accident such that you can't go to work? What if something negative happened? Which is, this is life. Like, we have the good days, the bad days, we have uncertainties, we have risk. These are real life issues. So you should be able to plan for, emergencies. So if your income is equals to your expense, you need to think about reducing that expense or increasing that income. You should have a saving. You should have a savings culture. Very, very important. One thing we've tried to do as a family is to make sure that we are able to save, no matter how small it is. So when we first came into the UK, we knew that we couldn't afford buying things in the African store. So we're not like buying things, we're cutting our coat according to our size, like, so that we could be able to have savings. So it is important that no matter how much you earn, even if you think you're not earning much, setting aside £100 can mean a lot. By the end of the year, you'll have £1,200. It looks small, but it's something. So instead of going to buy that fancy shoe, that fancy bag, that jacket, just calm down, save it. And one thing we've been strategic about is having a savings plan, saving for emergencies, prioritizing our savings culture. And one area I'm still trying to like come to terms with or come to speed with is investing. I've been reading a lot about investment, understanding the UK market, how investment works. And I know the UK focuses more on mortgage investment, stock and shares, ISA and cash ISA, where you can save towards your mortgage and all of that. I've been reading a lot. I've not come to speed yet with that. I'm going to share with you guys once I'm able to like understand how the financial market works. When I was in Nigeria, I was in treasury units. I knew about treasury bills, bonds, savings accounts, what's it called now, deposits, fixed deposit accounts, mutual funds. Like, I was very good at that. I was always investing our money, and so we're always getting returns on that. But in the UK, I haven't been very sound on how like the investment journey works. So I'm still like learning. I have the Trading 212 app and money books, so I'm still like trying to like boost my knowledge in that area. So you want to be able to have good savings and investment so that you can have money during the rainy seasons. Is that clear? So when it comes to budgeting, I've mentioned the first thing that you consider is the cost of living, your rent. You look at your income versus your expenses. You look at your savings habits. So these are the monies that you set aside when it comes to budgeting. So the fourth thing we need to look at is the final thing you need to consider when it comes to budgeting is your financial goals and challenges. Like, what is the financial plan of this family, of this person? So we look at savings for a mortgage. If you're in the UK, you know that having a mortgage is quite important because rent can be a huge part of your expenses. So, and mortgage is a lot cheaper, even though it's long term. But then there's also the tricky side to having a mortgage. You have down payment you have to make, which is about 10% of the house cost. So the house cost or house valuation, whatever it is, you have to pay like a huge amount of money. Some people accept 5%, some people say it's 15%, and then you can also get like funding from the bank. But having that initial down payment, if a house is 450,000, you have to have like 45k, which is like 10%, which is high. But there are some other, depending on where you live, you can get for 150, 200, 250, 300. So saving that first £30,000 can be a hassle. So when it comes to budgeting, you want to look at what are your future goals, what are your future plans. So if you're planning to have a mortgage, you have to start setting money aside every month so that you can save towards the mortgage. And then we have the cash ISA, where if you contribute, up to £4,000, I think, in this financial year, which for the UK is April to April. It's April now, March to March. So, or end of March to end of March, or let's say if 1st of April to 1st of April. So if you're able to save money, but still in March, if you're able to save money by the end of March up to £4,000, the government will match it up with £1,000, which is a cash ISA. I think you also have similar for stock and shares ISA. So you want to be able to like set money aside so that you can also benefit from that, but that money that you can get from the government towards your mortgage. So you have to consider that. You have to consider your plans as a family. Do you want to go on vacation? If you want to go on vacation, About it's a bit, cheaper here, especially if you want to go to Europe, within the UK, it's not that expensive. So you want to start setting money aside every month so that you can be able to afford that lifestyle. So that's another important thing to consider. If you have children, you want to save towards their future. So you should have a child ISA account, or you should have like an account for your child to save towards their future, towards their education. Those are another important things to consider. And then if you want to save towards your retirement pension, if you're working, take advantage of the pension that they have. Well, this is not a financial advice anyway, but it would be great for you to at least have, financial goals when it comes to your retirement. So how much you want to have at the end of retirement? What do you want to do when you retire? So you need to start setting money aside if you're young now, so that you can have you won't be begging when you are old. So this is the last thing that you need to consider when it comes to budgeting. If you're an immigrant living in the UK, here are tips to help you budget your money wisely. Number one, track your spending consistently. The goal is to know where your money is going. You'll be surprised how much you spend in a month when you decide to track it. Just take your time, go through your bank statement, list out everything you've spent. You'll be amazed how much you spend in a month. And this can help you strategically position yourself on how you can manage your finances, how you can save more, how you can invest more, whether you need to increase your income, whether you need to reduce your expenses. This will help you manage your money wisely. Number two, keep your lifestyle adaptable. One of the things that I do is to make sure that I'm very frugal in my spending. So when I have enough money and I know that I can afford to, have excess, go to fancy places, I go. But at the same time, I make sure that I am very frugal, very careful of what I buy. So I try to compare the best stores, the cheapest stores. You would see me in Aldi, Lidl, anytime and day. You see Waitrose, M&S, those expensive ones, I try to avoid them. So if you can, please go to affordable stores, track your grocery spending, compare prices, go to the cheapest stores. Whenever there are clothes on sale, like Next, like Zara's, like H&M's, you don't have to go and buy things there when you cannot afford it. But if they're on sales, you know that it's a cheaper price, go there. If you need to go to Primark, see, you can get good stuff from Primark. If you think that Primark is for cheap things, you can actually get good stuff. And if you want to use Shein, Temu, there's a way you can also shop strategically from them. I have been doing that. So you need to make sure that you're adaptable, that you are managing your finances according to your income. Number three, have a solid emergency fund. And this one can apply anywhere you are in the world. You need to be able to have some savings, something you can fall back on whenever the goods are down. So you don't want to say, nothing bad is going to happen. The goal is to be able to, be able to stand on your feet whenever anything, bad happens. Difficult times are bound to happen. Anything can happen in the future, but you want to have good savings, emergency fund that can support you whenever difficult situations happen. The aim is to have at least 3 months living expenses as backup, so that at least you'll be able to stand on your feet during difficult times. Number four, invest in long term. You can invest in stock and shares ISA, cash ISA, mortgage, make sure that you're also planning for long-term investment. And number five, know that it will take time. If you just came into the UK, do not expect that you're going to blow the next day or the next year. You may be lucky to get a good job, like a very good solid job, but also be careful about how you plan your expenses and making sure that, because most times your expenses will rise up to match your income. So, but you have to also understand that it's not going to happen overnight that you'll be a millionaire. Maybe you came in as a student, you know that, okay, especially if you're an immigrant and you don't have enough money, the goal at that period might not be to invest. The goal will be to gather enough money to save and pay up your school fees and your bills, and then maybe give yourself 1 or 2 years to be able to settle down, get a good job, and then now start planning on how to save and invest. But just understand that there are times and seasons in life, and some seasons are just temporary. You would be able to scale through that season and get the life of your dreams. I hope this blessed you, and if you did, like and follow and subscribe for more content from me.